Hi everyone, welcome back to the Recap Project. Today I'll be recapping the 1997 horror sci-fi film Cube. Spoilers ahead, let's begin. The film opens with a man waking up in a cube-shaped room with glowing circuit-like walls and 6 doors, one at the center of each wall, ceiling and floor. After recovering from his confusion, he opens up one of the doors and investigates them to find a similar room but in a different color. After that, he opens and enters a third room. He looks around and then takes a step, but that was the last step he will ever take. He had been sliced into large cubes, falling apart to reveal a rack of wires that had sliced him to pieces. Later we meet our first character, Quentin, who enters a white room. He meets David, who was unconscious on the ground. Holloway also finds a way into the room, followed by a scared Levin, who drops her glasses while entering. The group is panicking as none of them knows where they are, how they got here or why they are here. Ren is the last person to enter, making a party of 5. Quentin tells the group there are hidden traps, as he had peered into a room that almost cut his head off. Levin begins to cry, with Quentin going to comfort her, while Holloway makes sure that David is alright. Ren, however, goes to work, cleverly elongating the laces of his shoes, opening up a shaft and throwing it inside to trigger a trap, explaining that the rooms have motion detectors. As Ren prepares for another room, Quentin asks everyone to share as much information as they know. Holloway says that the last thing she remembers is opening the fridge in her house, and Levin says that she remembers going to bed at home. Holloway then begins to theorize about this being a government experiment due to the scale, and then an alien facility. Then, the group hears a large rumbling sound around them. While Levin argues that they should consider sitting still for someone to help them, Ren says that sitting still won't achieve anything, and that he'll move in a straight line. The group agrees with this plan, with Quentin agreeing that if there's a way in, there must be a way out. David ominously mutters that he has a feeling this wouldn't be that simple. As Levin breaks down again, Quentin comforts her, saying that he's a cop, and they will get through this together. The group travels through several rooms, using boots to test for traps. The group hears the loud noise again, but seemingly getting further. Ren says that it sounds mechanical and is at similar intervals. Levin notices a series of numbers beside each door, with David joking that there must be 566 million rooms that they must cover. Holloway complains about the dryness and lacking air, and reminds the group they have about 3 days without food or water before they are too weak to move. Ren gets tired of Holloway's pessimism, and tells her to suck on a button as it will keep the saliva flowing under dry conditions. As the group pushes on, Ren suddenly notices the air in the next room seems drier than normal, and argues there could potentially be a molecular chemical sensor that detects excretions from the skin. Suddenly, Quentin has a realization. Ren, a sensor expert, about the right age, he is Ren, the famous French prison escape artist. Ren doesn't deny it and makes it very clear that he's only willing to drag everyone along as he needs their boots, and that if they slow him down he will be gone instantly. Right as he says this, he jumps into a room tested with a boot, and is sprayed in the face with acid. The others pull him back, but he dies as the acid corrodes his face and inside his head. The group is unsure how to proceed with the expert gone. Quentin says that they should look at the bigger picture here and asks everyone about their occupation, beginning with his own. Holloway says that she's a doctor, Levin claiming that she's an ordinary student, and David saying that he works in an office building, doing office building stuff. Quentin is sure that nothing is a coincidence, each one of them must play a role. Holloway exclaims that she is pissed off, as people must have come into her house and stripped her of all her clothes and jewelry. Loud mechanical machinery is once again heard in the distance. Quentin then picks up Levin's broken glasses, and wonders why they specifically brought her glasses but not Holloway's jewelry, which would have taken effort to remove. He once again expresses his thoughts that nothing must be random. Levin examines all of the numbers carefully, and then realizes that if any of the rooms are prime, then the room is trapped, also revealing she had memorized the numbers for the previous trap rooms, which she realizes also contains prime numbers. She is revealed to be a math major student. Quentin expresses that Levin has a beautiful brain, before letting her enter the room to test the theory. She is safe and is overjoyed that she had cracked the code. The group proceeds forwards, with Levin checking each room's numbers before proceeding. As the group hears the loud mechanical sound again, Holloway complains that she needs a smoke, with Quentin saying that she needs to cut it out, as their situation is beginning to improve. They attempt to make small talk, and Quentin reveals that he has 3 kids and is divorced. As the group find themselves in a room with traps all around and below, they check the door on the ceiling, as a 7th person, Kazan, falls down, who appears to be mentally handicapped. The group is not keen on taking him along, but Holloway insists that she can take care of him. As they proceed, Quentin and Holloway begin speculating their surroundings, which cause a conflict between the two, with Quentin dismissing Holloway's ideas as conspiracy theories, and Holloway thinking that Quentin is too naive. Soon after this, Quentin enters a room without prime numbers, and narrowly avoids death from a razor wire trap. While Quentin is bandaged, Kazan begins to make irritating sounds. Quentin says that he suspects David for hiding something, and also expresses his annoyance at Kazan. The group rests while Levin attempts to figure out what went wrong. The morale of the room is low as Kazan begins urinating in the room they're resting in. David expresses that survival is hopeless, and they should give up. Quentin taunts David for his nihilistic attitude, aggravating him further by pressing on his masculinity, eventually baiting him into revealing that there's no way out, which startles everyone. The group circles him, forcing him to reveal that he was one of the architects, and had designed the outer shell of the facility. He had been contracted to draw plans for a hollow cube without further information. However, he reveals there are 26 rooms on each side, which gives a total of 17,576 rooms. Holloway cries that this must be the work of the Pentagon, as no other organization would have the resources. David argues that he thinks this is a baseless project that's operating under the illusion of a master plan. He had attempted to look into the purpose of the facility and found that there was no one in charge. It must have been one of the many perpetual public works projects that higher-ups use to cash in paychecks from the government. The facility has no purpose. Quentin, however, is not convinced and beats him up for not revealing this earlier. With this new information, Levin comes up with a new theory that the numbers might be Cartesian coordinates, and calculates a route to reach the edge. But this theory is flawed, as with these calculations, the room they started in would sit outside the cube. However, out of options, the group presses on, using their boots again. As they pass through a sound-activated trap, Quentin argues to leave Kazan behind, but Holloway overrules him. Everyone manages to silently make it through, with Holloway somehow guiding Kazan through. But just as Quentin is about to make it, Kazan calls out, nearly killing him. Quentin furiously beats him in anger. Holloway attempts to stop Quentin, but he turns his anger towards her, repeatedly insulting her in a sexist manner. When Holloway says, "No wonder why your wife left," Quentin hits her. Holloway then says, "And you beat your kids too." Levin breaks the tension and says that they should look at what's beyond the door. They open it to reveal the darkness of the outer shell, with nothing to hold on to or see. The group comes up with the idea to swing a bit further outside to see if they can gather any more information, which Holloway volunteers to do. As she is suspended outside the room, the cube shakes and everyone loses their grip. Quentin catches her, but then lets her fall to her death. He tells the others she slipped, but they are suspicious. The group then decides to try to reach the bottom edge of the cube, but agree that they need to rest before setting out for it. The group is growing weary with the lack of air, food, and water. As they sleep, the group grows delirious. Quentin carries Levin into another room. He tries to convince a barely conscious Levin to abandon the other two, saying that they are the only two providing value, and begins making sexual advances at her. She snaps awake and calls out. He tries to force herself on her, but David comes to her rescue, with Kazan also entering the room. Quentin expresses that he doesn't trust anyone, and the group confronts him for letting Holloway die. Enraged, Quentin starts beating David ruthlessly, and throws him down a room. David laughs hysterically as he sees Ren's corpse in that room, meaning they've been going in circles. David notices that the acid room is no longer adjacent. They realize the rooms must be moving. At the same time, Levin realizes that the rooms with numbers marked as prime are part of a larger set of prime numbers, and the non-prime numbers provide information to the way the room moves. The calculations are difficult and time-consuming as they involve astronomical numbers, but it is revealed that Kazan is an autistic savant with the capacity to perform these calculations easily. David convinces Kazan to help them by saying he'll give him gumdrops after they escape. With all this information, Levin finally completes her calculations, and realizes the room they need to be in is the exact same room they started in, and they need to arrive in 2 moves, or else they'll need to wait for another full cycle which could take another few days. They make their way towards the exit safely. David devises a plan to lose Quentin, who has gone completely mad. He repeatedly insults the group, and has started throwing Kazan to test the room's safety. David traps Quentin to fall into a room below them, and the group peers down to see Quentin next to a pool of blood. The group swiftly advances through the rooms, until they finally reach the beginning. However, as the rooms rotate, Kazan is left behind. David risks his life to find and save Kazan, with him stubbornly refusing to move until David promises to give twice the amount of gumdrops he had promised, getting him into the room just in time before the cube moves. As the trio waits for the cube to rotate to the correct position, Levin jokes that she was right all along about staying still. As the cube rotates, the group enters the last room and opens the next door. Bright light pours into the room. They had made it. David, however, announces that he will not go, as there's nothing for him in the world. Levin tries to convince him there's still good out there. Her eyes turn into a look of horror. Quentin had somehow managed to catch up, and stabbed Levin with a handle. David jumps onto Quentin, screaming at Kazan to go for the door. He gets stabbed as well. Quentin attempts to escape as well, but David grabs Quentin's leg with the last of his strength. Right as this happens, the cube makes its rotation, and a bloodstain is shown smeared across the wall. David quietly lies down next to Levin, as a confused Kazan wanders about near the exit. The film ends with Kazan walking out into the light, as he begins his journey to find the gumdrops he was promised.